Hey everyone, and welcome to the next edition of the Into the Rift podcast, a Riftbound TCG podcast hosted by myself, Alex Coccia, and of course, my good friend and best of Teemo Bologna, Joe Curley. And talking about best of Teemo, Joe, we got a lot to talk about this week with the Sydney Regional just ending. We are hot off the presses. We're actually getting to record this and release this a day earlier than usual. Well, because it's a holiday here in Canada, so I'm off, and so we get to actually get it done nice and early. But Joe, how excited are you to break down Sydney?
Yeah, it was a great event, and the Teemo in the top 8 is the cherry on the cake for me. I'm really happy to see that. Looking forward to talking about that deck list more, but I thought it was a really great event. It was also, the Teemo player from Australia as well. I think it's always great to see local players competing well. Like Riftbound is a worldwide game, and I think it's great that we had all eyes on Sydney this weekend in a different region, and didn't disappoint. It was a great event.
From my understanding, the regional was huge from an attendance standpoint. I think there was like 1,600 people in the main event. And so UVS and Riot weren't joking when they were saying they were trying to expand the reach of their regionals and how many people were able to get in. I guess demand's just absolutely crazy because that is an absolutely massive event. You absolutely love to see it. And Joe, we got a lot to talk about today. We're going to talk about, obviously, the event in full detail. We're going to break down everything you need to know. We're going to talk about the top decks, the best decks, the stories that happened throughout the weekend, most played cards, most played spells, everything you need to know. And you know what? Before that, though, it is also the first week of Unleashed. I mean, Sydney's important because it really establishes the meta going forward for Unleashed as a whole. And going to locals even prior to Sydney, so I did a local on a Thursday night, did one on a Sunday, I did one on actually a Saturday evening as well. So I've done 3. And I played a whole bunch of different things. I'm going to show one of the decks that I had kind of brewed up with some interesting things. But Joe, you'd been doing some cooking yourself. And in the comments section, we have over and over again seen someone requesting some Jinx love. And I think that Joe took it as a call to kind of create something a little interesting. And we got a special treat for you today.
Yeah, Jinx, who is also in between us right now, Alex. I've got a signature overnumbered Chinese Jinx that was my first ever Riftbound card. So it's a deck close to my heart. And I had someone playing in Sydney this weekend, chasing Best of Jinx, a coaching student. And we cooked up a really awesome budget-friendly Jinx deck. It, just happened to be budget. So Jinx is definitely not one of the best decks in the format, I think it's fair to say. But I was really impressed by how consistently we were able to draw off the Jinx legend. Like if you've played Jinx in set 1, you'll know, or even set 2, you'll know that you kind of never really use your legend. That has changed a little bit, and a big reason why is the Scryer's Bloom card, which is this 1 energy gear, which comes in exhausted, and you can spend an energy later on to pop it and predict 2, drawing 1 card. You can just put the Scryer's Bloom down on the board nice and early, empty your hand, make sure you get the draw from Jinx, and then pop it later on. And then you can end up with 4 cards in hand after triggering your Jinx, which is actually a really big deal. Obviously, Gust as well feels really good in this format, synergizes nicely with Jinx. Cleave is a really good, maybe one of the best answers, Alex, to the Vex apathetic in the format. This Vex is such a menace to deal with, but Cleave is a really cheap way of dealing with it. And now there's just loads of good 2-drops, right? Paltipora is really good this format because everybody's playing Gust. It's a really good Aurora card as well against Aurora. And then you just got the Treasure Hunter, Traveling Merchant, Tide Turner, Noxus Hopeful. You're trying to dump your hand. You hide Switcheroos. You hide your Pikes. You can accelerate your Pikes. That also helps empty your hand nicely to draw for Jinx. And then the Nocturne Spice, my favorite card in set 1 of Riftbound. You have that with Candlelit game 1. You can sideboard that out if you so desire. Overall, the deck's for a Jinx deck, very good. Obviously, there's better decks out there. But what I was really impressed about with this deck is we were able to beat Aurora. We were able to beat Leblanc. It can definitely struggle against a more fair deck like Master Yi, for example. But pretty much the logic of this is you've got a deck which is on paper not as strong as some of the others, so just polarize the heck out of it. What are you trying to do? And this deck knows what it is. It is pure, unadulterated aggro. Every single card in this is trying to win the game as quickly as possible, and that's why this deck has a real chance of winning some locals, that's for sure. Not going to be the best deck in the metagame, but if you like Jinx, I think you're going to really enjoy this one.
And that's the amazing thing about the best of prizing, though, right? You don't have to target winning the entire tournament. You can absolutely target being the best of a given legend, which is exactly what you're alluding to. And I love the idea of playing Jinx aggressively. I think that's the whole purpose of playing Jinx. And the only time I really play Jinx is I've not played her since basically, I think it was the first deck I played. I was given a starter pack and she was one of the starter decks, right? And
Yes.
that was essentially my first experience playing Jinx, and unfortunately never really went back to her because she just wasn't really meta relevant, which is unfortunate because obviously it is an absolutely iconic hero, to the point where I'm hoping that maybe, I mean, we have multiple Ys, we have multiple whatever, like maybe we get another Jinx down the road, right? Which is going to be a little more impactful, because I think that the legend deserves a little bit of love, because it is truly one of the most iconic in League of Legends.
Yeah, it's definitely true. I think it's overshadowed very heavily by Annie, right? Like the Proving Grounds Annie being in the same colors. You know, we saw that Proving Grounds wasn't supposed to be the strongest legends. That's what Riot came out and said. But then we're still seeing Yi and Annie dominate. So I think Jinx definitely overshadowed a little bit by that. But it's honestly a lot better than you'd think. I think now that there's more cards available, like when you try building Jinx in set 1, certainly when I built it, it was like, yeah, there's not really enough 2-drops to make this legend work. Well, this deck's got so many now, you can go so wide so quickly. I think it's a lot better than you would think. I've got to say as well, Alex, like the Pike, this 3-cost Pike, is such a strong card in an aggro deck. You can hide it, you can accelerate it, sort of pseudo-accelerate because you don't have to pay that extra energy. But you can reveal it from hidden in your own turn, and then it comes in ready from hidden if you want, if you pay that red power, gank over. Like the deck's got so many cool lines, and I think it's like a $60 deck, $50 deck. So if you've got a lot of these cards as staples, you're looking to create like a fun deck for someone that's not played Riftbound before, maybe they've watched Arcane, this would be like such a good deck to get someone into Riftbound. I think it's really fun and not super easy to play. I think that you can think that aggro is going to be easy to play because, you know, the games are quicker. The thing with an aggro deck is like your decisions in the early game, like turn 2 to turn 3, you're going to win or lose the game based on how efficiently you play in those early turns. You can set yourself up to a quick win, but those early decisions are so crucial with a deck like this.
Yeah, thankfully bans like fight or flight, I should say, do help aggro style decks. So, you know, hopefully that helps to improve the pace of play, because Riftbound, one of the challenges they have is the games are too damn long. Like they're still very, very long. Like when I'm playing, I'm so engaged and I love it. Like I don't really think about it. But if you 2-0 an opponent at a locals, like you might be sitting there for another 45 minutes to an hour while people finish out their games. Like it's kind of crazy how long the matches are going, and you hit time, then they go on turns, and they slow play the turns. So it's like, you know what I mean? And even at the regionals, right? Like of course you've had some judge calls and stuff like that. Maybe we'll touch on a couple of the situations at the regionals. You do have judge calls, and I'd rather them take the time and get the calls right as opposed to rushing through calls, because I think that's very very important. But at the same time, it's like you have these games, especially in the top 8, that go so long, and then it's just something that you know, Riftbound does have to consider. Like, absolutely love the game. Like, don't get me wrong, this is not a complaint, but it is a pain point that needs to be identified, that the length of these Riftbound games are pretty long. So to see an aggro deck like Jinx do well is awesome. Now, you did touch on something really cool, which was Vex Apathetic, who is going to be coming up later as well. And to say that card was a pain in my keister would be an understatement, friend, because so I've been trying to cook a whole bunch of different decks, and the deck I'm going to show you here is one that I brought to locals, and it is not in any way, shape, or form representative of the best way to play Lillia, but I want to showcase it because I had this idea, and I'm like, I wonder if this will work. I had seen nobody talk about this, and it was a synergy that honestly everyone I played against was caught by surprise with, and I actually did really well with it. It's missing a bunch of key pieces though. So this deck here, I know you love seals. I got 2 blue seals in it.
Oh yeah.
Heimerdinger in here as well. And I was thinking to myself, you know what, Lillia's legend ability and Heimerdinger, you can just start generating the sprites. And then it gets discounted based on how many sprites are there. It turns into this chain of sprites. And I was thinking to myself, what if I did something that I just had like this engine, this sprite engine, where I could like create this attrition war, where I could send these units that are just replicating every single turn. And my opponent has to like spend resources, deal with them, but then I just regenerate them every single time with Heimerdinger, with the Sprite Queen and everything else. I had so much fun with this deck. Now, there's key things missing here. Smoke and Mirror is missing, which is absolutely critical. I think Unchecked Power is an important card here, right? I would actually, this might be crazy, but I would cut the Defies and just put Lilting Lullabies in, and I could run 12. Blue mana, because this is a pretty power-hungry deck. So I had this idea of like, what if I'm using seals? But here's the thing. This deck was great, and I played against a Pike player who had Vex Apathetic, And literally every game turn, like as soon as they could possibly get up, turn 2 or 2 or 3, Vex Apathetic came out and I was cooked. I couldn't do anything.
Yep.
The whole deck just shut down. And the only option I really had was if I had a body on the board, I could like Eclipse. Literally, I could Eclipse the Vex, pay a deflect cost, which is the deflect cost is like just the absolute just salt in the wound. Run in, deal with it. But if I don't have a body on the board because they're doing stuff like falling stars and everything, right? Like you just can't stay on the board. And the other option, of course, is Singularity, but you're paying 3 power. 3 to do a target on top of a Vex. That Vex was so unbelievably savage to deal with. And I'm also just going to say the top 8, 7 purples. 7 Chaos players were in top 8. We're going to talk about that as well. But so anyways, I just want to showcase this because I do think that Lillia is really cool. Obviously, Smoke and Mirrors makes this deck way better because it makes the champion unit way better. That's why I sideboarded it out. But like, I kind of liked this idea of creating this engine. I had the one time warp in there too, just to like, oh, like you think, time warp, and then everything just regenerates on my board, right? Kind of really cool. I had a ton of fun with this deck, and I just want to throw it out there because I've never seen Heimerdinger played. I thought this was like one of the rare instances where Heimerdinger almost made sense. Because I even used him as a seal every once in a while. Like if I didn't want to kind of throw him into the battlefield or anything like that. Really liked this deck a lot, but I'm not saying it's good. I'm just saying I tried to cook, and this is what I came up with. I'd be very interested in your comments and how you guys could refine this with me. Like as a team, let's refine this because I actually kind of want to play it more because I liked it. But yeah, Vex, it's just you can't actually play this competitively if Vex is part of the meta because it just destroys it.
Yeah, the Heimerdinger is a really cool card. Like there was a couple Renata decks using like the blue Renata where you can like exert her at a battlefield to score a point, and Heimerdinger can kind of like use that ability as well, but it never really proved to be too good. But I feel like Heimerdinger is a card that eventually is going to be really good. I do love the blue seals, and blue seal Heimerdinger sounds good. I think like unchecked power is definitely like the main card that would help against the Vex as well, right? Most of the decks are running like 3 unchecked powers, and there is like some counterplay to it. But yeah, Vex is just such a menace. It's like you say, like with that deflect cost, there's almost like no efficient way of dealing with Vex in the game. She's 4 energy, 4 might and deflect. Pretty much anything you use is going to trade down to Vex. Like she's just a very, very busted card, and can totally shut down the Lillia in particular.
Yeah, and to be clear, I think I did mention it, but I would play Unchecked Power and I would play Smoke and Mirrors if I had them. Like this is literally what I played because this is what I had in my collection. Oh, so yeah. So I didn't have Unchecked Power. Also, I think it's like almost $60 now. Like it completely ramped in price, right? So I thought I had 1 or 2, and I looked through and I can't find it. I don't know, man. I got to get more organized with my cards. I'm the kind of guy that I have like tables of cards just stacked like this. Yes. They're not actually properly organized, but I got to figure out organization.
My girlfriend has taken it upon herself to organize our card collection, which is what a feeling that is. I'm not the best with card organization either.
All right, we got to talk about the Sydney meta. Now, we're going to talk about like all the conversion rates and everything like that, but on like a kind of overarching look. This is an official graphic from Riot. The most played decks, to the surprise of probably very few people, was LeBlanc at number 1 at a 7% meta share. LeBlanc, very, very high complexity, very, very high skill ceiling. Not surprising to see that it did as well as it did. Kind of felt bad for the one LeBlanc player top 8 against 7 purple, because I think that's kind of like that's probably the reason why LeBlanc was held in check. Then you have Master Yi at 6%, Irelia at 6%, Diana at 5%. Diana more represented than I expected, but it makes perfect sense. I think you actually had called out that you had heard that Alan was going to be on Diana. That proved to be true, and Diana was in full display as being ridiculous. Oh, the signature spell, literally insane. Like probably one of the absolute best in the game. Actually, literally all these have fantastic signature spells, with the exception of Yi. Yi's signature spells like literally not used at all. Then you have Vex at 4%, Misfortune Aurora at 4%, Victor still holding 4% with all of its removal, and a Fiora at 3%, which is not, honestly, I would never have picked Fiora for the top 8 most played, but there we are. Joe, what are your thoughts on the metagame for day 1?
I mean, let's be honest, 7% meta share as the top deck is absolutely absurd in a card game. Like, that is crazy. I've played card games where you've got the top deck pushing 40% meta share, right?
I agree.
And we have got, like, this whole graphic barely adds up to 40%, right? Like the top 8 decks altogether. So absolutely unbelievable. When I saw this graphic, so I was streaming like day one, sort of like after day one had concluded, but I was reacting to the day one games. I actually predicted Irelia to win. Irelia was my prediction to win. And my hot take, Alex, was that Vex is the most overrated deck in the game, which didn't age particularly well because Vex made it to the top 8. And my hot take for that was basically just that I think Irelia is a lot more compelling than Vex. They're the same colors, of course. Irelia, you get like this brilliant signature spell. But Vex was really kind of impressed me. And then I think like Victor is probably like the weakest deck on here, but it's also like the most budget friendly. Obviously, we know that Victor is like a very popular legend from previous sets as well. And yeah, Fiora, I'm also a little bit surprised to see. I was a little bit surprised there wasn't more Misfortunes as well. And Misfortune was overshadowed by Sivir as well, which I found quite interesting in terms of the final results.
Yeah, and a lot of these are going to be, the Sivir and Misfortune, those are Aurora decks, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of, even Poppy. If you're playing Orange, there's a good chance you're playing Aurora, which maybe is a conversation that we'll have later. But yeah, like I like Victor as well. I think Victor is kind of like a jack of all trades. I feel like he can kind of do anything. Against Irelia, you can call the weak. Like there's options, right? I think that Victor has in its arsenal that can like kind of play well. Like obviously he still has challenges. He's got the salvage, but that's kind of slow compared to what's happening with the Auroras and stuff like that. You're right. Very budget friendly. Doesn't feel like he has an unfair advantage yet. Just a lot of really good removal, but Victor just does not quite have that that ace in his pocket, which other archetypes tend to have. Like when we look at these archetypes on the screen here, they all seem to have like a very unfair, like again, Diana Moonfall, like absolutely ridiculous. Defiant Dance, absolutely ridiculous. LeBlanc's whole package is just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Even with the way that the battlefields are being used, right? So like, I think that like there's a lot here, and Victor's kind of punching above his weight in a lot of ways, but is a very strong, like above average archetype in almost every regard. Just doesn't have that one thing that sends him across the finish line, so to speak.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. I think like Victor also is like the kind of deck which in certain metas can really thrive, right? But I think that most of these decks are on here because people just think the decks are really strong. And Victor is that sort of like one deck that's creeping in here because it's just a really popular deck within the community. I don't think like a lot of these Victor players aren't going to necessarily think it's the best deck in the game, but it's a deck that they're going to be experienced playing in previous sets. It's also like a pretty sought after best of, right? Because obviously Victor being in Arcane as well. So I think it's a bit of a mix of those things there with Victor. I agree though, Fiora like being this high up is surprising, but it's also probably worth mentioning there's probably like 8 more decks that are just a couple players less than Fiora, right? Like there's going to be so many decks around like that 30 to 36 players played.
Yeah, and we'll go through all those as well. In the meantime, though, let's talk about the most played for units and spells as well. Most played units, we have the Thousand Tail Watcher running 31%. There's Vex Apathetic, a brand new card, 27%. And one of my absolute favorite cards in the game, Scuttle Crab. And what's hilarious about this card is not only is the information remarkably powerful, and in Riftbound you get to actually write down or take notes based on the opponent's hand or what's hidden in, etc. The XP component to Scuttle Crab kind of irrelevant, so it's kind of interesting to think that you have like a line on it that like people don't really care about. Scuttle Crab 2 cost, replace itself. Information conquers on turn 1, that just gets fed on turn 2 sometimes and just reveals the hand. Love the card. And then you have Akshan running a 20%, most likely in the sideboard. Tie Turner, one of your favorite cards here. And the rest, I'll read it through for the audio listeners. Disarming Rake, 17%. That's higher than I would have expected, but very good removal. Vile Maul, a brand new card, coming in at 17%. The Lonely Poro at 17%. The Noxus Hopeful, one of the standouts of Origins. And finally, the Plundering Poro at 16%.
Yeah, really interesting, honestly, data. Like, great to see from Riot. Like, I don't know exactly how it's working, right? Like, Thousand-Tailed Watcher, you would imagine there's only like 1 or 2 copies in a lot of decks, whereas like the Scuttle Crab, for example, there's going to be like 3 copies of these in most decks. So I think it can be a little bit misleading in that sense, but it's still extremely interesting. And I think, honestly, like the big surprise from this list for me is the Vilemore at 17%. It's not a card I've massively had on my radar. It's like a 8 cost, I believe, ambush unit, which enemy units here with less might than me don't deal combat damage. So it's probably, again, like more of a tech card and more of like a 1 or 2 of, maybe even in sideboards. Obviously worth noting, there's quite a lot of gear removal there in terms of the Disarming Rake and the Akshan. And you've also just got quite a lot of good 2-drops, right? With Tide Turner, Scuttle Crab, Plundering Porrow, Lonely Porrow, and even the Noxus Hopeful to some extent as well. So very interesting data, and really like to see Riot giving us stuff like this. Hopefully more.
Of course, yeah. And we got more because we have one more most of that they did reveal officially, and it was most played spells. You might not have seen this because they didn't release this on socials. It was like, it popped up on the stream, and I took a screenshot of it. I was like, man, we're going to use this later. But long story short, most played spells. Number 1, Defy, 37%. Discipline, 34%. Number 2, we have 2 green. I mean, literally every time I play green, I'm putting these 2 cards in it. Like, literally every single time. The only exception was what I was talking about with Lillia. Defy for a Lilting Lullaby so I can run all blue. But, like, for the most part, really, really on point to see Defy and Discipline together. Gust at, I believe that's 33%. And then we have Charm, Sabotage, Salvage, Star-Crossed, which is, oh my gosh, Star-Crossed. I don't want to say it's a ban candidate, but my God, Star-Crossed is a pain in the ass. Not So Fast, Hidden Blade, and Stacked Deck. Okay, can you please tell me that Star-Crossed is not a ban candidate? Like, what is going on with this card? It is absolutely ridiculous, and seeing it in play, and obviously at my locals, I'm like, this card is such a pain. I think I hate it.
It's very good, especially like with the Fizz loop as well, right? Like bounce your Fizz back and replay it. It's also Star-Crossed at the moment. It is a pretty good tech card to deal with Aurora, which I think means that it's, Rebuke. Like, Rebuke was one of the best cards in the game, and Rebuke is nowhere near this list because Star-Crossed is replacing it in many ways. So I think that if Aurora was to get banned this week, I wouldn't be too surprised if Star-Crossed was to join in there as well. But we'll have to see. I mean, I'm not massively expecting bans because I think there's quite a lot of events happening quite soon. I think in Set 3 there's like barely a 2-week gap between regionals, and they said they sort of want to give at least 2-week notice for bans. So not really expecting anything. It's I think the biggest surprise really on this list, Alex, if you were to have shown me this a month ago, I would say really Gust is this popular, but it just shows you what a Gust meta it is. And I think if you're playing a Fury deck, you've got to start looking at Palti Porro, as I had it in my Jinx deck as well, right? Like, I think Palti Porro is looking really good in this format because of how popular Gust is. But Gust being more popular than Stack Deck is absolutely absurd. I think Irelia decks aren't playing Stack Deck necessarily. But yeah, that is very interesting to see. You've got Not So Fast, Defiers, like 2 counter cards. You've got some gear removal in there with Salvage, and Sabotage is sort of also somewhat gear removal for Aurora, right? Like, you can discard that Aurora before it even pops up. But very interesting data to see, that is for sure.
I should clarify that, like, when I say I want to see Star-Crossed get banned, I'm exaggerating more than anything else. You shouldn't be banning cards like literally 2 weeks into a set. Like, we've had like 1 weekend with it, 1 regional. Obviously, there's not enough data. I'm just saying that in my limited play experience thus far, Star-Crossed has been an absolute pain. But yeah, to ban it this early is obviously an exaggeration on my part.
Yeah, if I may,
cards
as well,
like Gust,
Alex,
though, we have lots of data for. Not Star-Crossed yet.
Yeah, if I may just explain, I think I mentioned like Star-Crossed is a bit of an Aurora tech as well. I should explain why that is. It's because when the dragon comes through, you can react to the dragon trigger, bouncing the dragon back to hand. The damage from the dragon will still go through, but it won't be lethal damage anymore. And that can just be enough to win you the game against Aurora.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you so much, Joe. All right, let's get into the actual day one meta here. This is the full kind of list. And now it's long enough that I have to add a third one afterwards, just so you guys have a quick look here. This is what it looks like. We did talk about the Leblanc down to the... actually, did Azir sneak in here? Like... They had Fiora on the prior top 8, and then on this one here that they released officially, it looks like Azir is actually above. So someone didn't count quite as effectively there as they maybe should have. Poppy at 34, obviously that is a lot of Aurora. But anything that stands out to you here in the first set of images, and again, we do have the third set here, which is going to have the least played cards, which is pretty interesting. I'm kind of surprised to see Master Yi. That's the XP version of Master Yi, I believe, at 14.
Yeah, I'm honestly surprised Garen is the least popular, which people can say, really? But like Garen Aurora is really not that bad. And honestly, I think Rumble is not that bad either. Like it's interesting to see which decks are represented the least, right? But I would have expected like any deck that can play Aurora. Like I wonder if like the Master Yi XP deck is also just playing Aurora. Not sure on that. I'm going to be covering like all the best ofs on my channel later on this week once all the data's there. But it's great to see such a widespread, that's for sure, Alex. Like Leona up at 33 players is actually great as well. Leona got a lot of interesting new options, right?
As we look into day 2 here, Master Yi, the Blade Master variation, so that is the original variation from Proving Grounds, had the highest conversion rate. And then you had Irelia, LeBlanc, Diana, Vex, Sivir. So these are all the ones we kind of expected. Does anything stand out to you on this list, Joe, as ones with particularly good conversion rates, particularly bad conversion rates? And of course, this is getting into day 2 Top Cut.
Yeah, so Master Yi is like the most in Top Cut, but there was actually one deck with a slightly higher conversion rate, which was Sivir. 37.5, Alex. That's crazy. So almost like more than a third of the people that played Sivir made it through to day 2. This is going to be an Aurora deck for sure. And then Misfortune, I'm quite curious on Misfortune. It seemed to have a pretty bad weekend. 14.9% conversion rate on Miss Aurora, which isn't brilliant by any stretch. I'm really surprised that Sivir had such a better conversion rate. My theory on that, Alex, is that probably the more new players to Aurora gravitate towards Misfortune, whereas maybe some like more experienced players that have been playing Aurora for a long time recognize that maybe Sivir actually has some compelling advantages on, and maybe like the average quality of player on Sivir is better. My feeling is that Misfortune is still the better way to play Aurora, but this data wouldn't support that, right? But I think it's like always important to any data we get, while we can draw conclusions from it, like you always have to remember that not everything is like always going to be perfect. There's a lot of caveats to everything here. And I don't necessarily think that like Sivir is like twice as good as Misfortune, which this data would suggest, right?
But it's also interesting to see like even something like a Teemo, which is running like a low conversion rate, ultimately ends up getting to top 8. So to some degree, there is variance between deck quality, skill, etc., right? Like you could pilot a deck that might not be the meta contender, which is exactly what Teemo had done, into the top 8, for instance. Is it hard? Hell yeah, it's going to be hard, but you can absolutely do it. And we did see that this week. We go to the second graphic here, which is the ones that failed to convert or almost failed to convert. Jinx, Master Yi, and that's the new Master Yi, the XP variation. Yasuo, Lee Sin, Lux, Garen, Renata, Rumble, Jhin. Poor Jhin, 0s across the board. Ivern surprises me. Next week I might talk about an Ivern spicy list that I've been cooking. Rek'Sai, and then Ornn. This is actually heartbreaking. These are legends I actually do like. Very sad to see some 0 conversion rates there.
I'm really surprised by some of them. I mean, Garen was the least represented. I wouldn't have been surprised to have seen a Garen make day 2 because you can play Aurora there, right? It's the only orange deck there, only orange deck that's not made it through to day 2. But honestly, like, yeah, the Ivern I think is not a bad deck. I'm actually quite surprised by Rek'Sai and Ornn. Ornn aggro seems quite interesting this set. It's definitely a deck I want to take for a test run. Like the Sprite Fountain is an unbelievably good card in that deck because you basically don't have a power cost on it. And Rek'Sai, I thought was going to get quite a bit better this set, but seems to be struggling quite a lot. So I definitely think that I'm not surprised that like Renata's in there, Jin's in there, Rumble was one of the least played. But even all of these decks that are down there, I think every single deck in Riftbound has the potential to make day 2 in the right hands.
And why don't we talk about the absolute top performers from Riftbound's Sydney Regional. We're going to start with the winner. Number 1, Irelia, the Blade Dancer. Joe, you had called Irelia being one of the absolute top dogs of the meta, and that had come to pass. It did take it, beating Sivir in the finals, an Aurora deck. What's your take on not only the matchups that kind of, when you're playing in these tournaments, you have to overcome Aurora. It is that impactful. So A, I'd like your take on Aurora as a whole, and then B, we'll talk about the decks and specifically Irelia here, which was successful in taking down the tournament.
Yeah, so Irelia was my pick to win the tournament. I think it was only one in the top 8. So obviously this player, very skilled, that's for sure. I think the reason I picked Irelia, I actually think Irelia was the best deck post-ban in Spirit Forge, right? I played in not the DLC, that's a different game. I played in the regional qualifier of Lille, which was like the post-ban regional, or there was obviously one in Atlanta as well. So I played a lot in Spirit Forge, and I think Irelia was the top deck, but it had a really target on its back. Everybody was teching their deck to beat Irelia. That's really not the case at the moment, right? People are much more concerned about Aurora, and rightfully so. And I just felt that the Irelia might have some good opportunity to sneak in here. Also, like, while it didn't get that much, it got the new battlefields, which I think is definitely a ban contender. It was the Abandoned Hall, which is when a player plays a spell, they may give a unit they control here +1 might this turn. I think as soon as we saw this card, we were thinking, really, this isn't just like once a turn. So you can easily give one of your units like 3 or 4 might just from this battlefield alone. And we know that Irelia really didn't need that much more help in terms of like giving might. You get Defiant Dance. Vex made the top 8, right? And I just think that Irelia is a better way to play these colours. The one thing I was a little bit surprised by, Alex, in this deck list, we don't have sideboard access yet, that there wasn't the Vex Apathetic in the main deck. I would imagine there was at least a copy or 2 on the sideboard. Not that it has that much synergy with Irelia, it's just an unbelievably good card and an extra unit that you have available to you.
Yeah, I would assume that if you're running purple and it's not in the main deck, Vex Apathetic, at least a 2 of, is probably in the sideboard, because it completely shuts down. Like, we're going to talk about a Rengar later. We didn't see much of the ambush mechanics and stuff like that, but it does shut down that very aggressive style of play, and it opens up Irelia to basically just have free reign over the battlefields, right? Which is exactly what she wants to do, especially with things like Ride the Wind, where she can start to contest very effectively into different battlefields. So yeah, so you have Irelia. Number 1, congratulations. Number 2, we have talked quite a bit about Sivir, and we've talked a lot about Aurora, and this is exactly what we have here. Very close matches. What's your take on Aurora? And I will mention, Joe did mention it, we are recording so early this time, in fact, that we are going off of the list that like Riot had officially kind of provided on screen during the regionals. They do not provide the sideboards, so as a result, we'll have all the links in the description down below. I'm sure they'll be updated with the sideboards if you're listening to this later in the week, so just do bear that in mind. We are just talking main deck right now.
Yeah, this deck, like, the one big surprise for me in this deck list is this Disposable Order as a one-of, which is a 2-cost reaction spell. You can either choose up to 3 cards from opponent's trash, their owner recycles them, or you can draw 1. It seems a bit random, honestly. I'm sure there's good reason for it, but you could maybe like disrupt the Fizz combos with the Disposable Order. The rest of the deck, no giant surprises for a Sivir deck. They tend to play like the Pack of Wonders Treasure Trove combo. So there's 2 Pack of Wonders, 3 Treasure Troves. Like the Sivir Legend is getting you gold gear, and you can use the gold to pop the Treasure Trove on its own to ramp, which is pretty interesting. Obviously, like the big thing you get from playing Misfortune is the signature spell, but realistically, Flurry of Blades is just a better card than that with the Elder Dragon. There's 1 Mind Splitter, 3 dragons. I would still be really interested to see if these decks can go down to just 3 dragons and no other units, certainly after sideboard. I think in the final it's something that I haven't watched the final back that closely just yet. I'm going to be doing it after we film here. But I believe they hit a Mind Splitter off of the Aurora in the second game, and there was an Adaptatron on the other side, and I was just thinking, yeah, if it was an Elder Dragon that you're hitting every single time there, could have made the difference. So that's something I still am very interested to see if we ever see this Mind Splitter actually being removed entirely. At least post sideboard, that would be an option, right?
And Elder Dragon, of course, has been a massive boon to Aurora as a whole. This has provided it with a lot of additional utility. You're not seeing the Volley Bears as often anymore. You're seeing the Elder Dragon. So how much has Elder Dragon helped Aurora as a whole kind of compete at the top end of the meta?
Yeah, it makes the deck very all in, right? There was a lot of debate about it. I posted a video even where like some people were like, yeah, Elder Dragon, Aurora. The thing is like there's no reason not to play 3 Elder Dragons in an Aurora deck now. And that means that if you miss your Aurora, you are probably just cooked because you've got these very expensive dragons that aren't going to be able to be played from hand. So it is just all about drawing the Aurora. I think purple is by far the best way to do that, with Scry's Bloom in particular being such a huge consistency boost for this deck as well. Yeah, and also the Flurry of Blades. The fact that you can play a dragon from Aurora, react to your dragon trigger with Flurry of Blades. Like even if your opponent not so fast to your dragon, if they play the star crossed onto your dragon, if you have a spare rune available, you can react to both of those with Flurry of Blades and still clear everything at battlefields for just 1 energy. There's some really gross things this deck can do. There's no doubt about that. And I think realistically, you have to be a good player to maximize the potential of this. But I think you can be an extremely below mediocre player and still get a lot of easy wins because this deck is just so strong.
And for those that are like on their way home from work, listening in the car, not able to read it, the Elder Dragon is the 12, 4 power, 10 might. Any amount of your damage is enough to kill enemy units. And when you play me, choose up to one enemy unit at each location and deal 1 to them. And that obviously will destroy those units. Flurry of Blades is a 1-cost reaction where you deal 1 to all units at battlefields, which is going to, alongside the Elder Dragon, just wipe the battlefields out because you're getting that trigger off of the Elder Dragons. If you do damage, they're dead. And so that's the combo that Joe is alluding to. So yeah, number 2's for Sivir. Remarkable result. To be honest with you, I'm glad to see Sivir at the top. To see that's on the back of Dazzling Aurora is perhaps a point of contention. But what's not contentious is that Diana is legit. This legend provides so much reach in the showdowns with its ability. It is remarkably powerful, in particular with Moonfall. Like Moonfall might be, I don't want to say like, we have a lot of really good signature spells. Like you talked about Defiant Dance prior with Irelia. Obviously that is going to be incredible. But Moonfall, it's just like a completely broken, unfair charm that it's unbelievable. And this tournament really showcased how powerful this signature spell is. And for the most part, I think it's one of the key reasons why Diana is as prevalent as she is.
Yeah, and also it's 3 costs within Fizz range, right? Like that's pretty significant. You've got the Starcrossed, 1 of Fading Memories, which just shows you how much respect you need to give Aurora that you would ever consider playing Fading Memories in the deck. And yeah, the Frigid Jewel, I think, is one of the coolest cards in this, Alex, which is a 2-cost gear from Unleashed. It was actually in like the Jin starter pack in the pre-rifts. When you draw your 2nd card each turn, give a friendly unit +2 might this turn. Very, very strong with the... I never know how to pronounce this card. I got roasted for it in my comments yesterday. It's not Huey. It's like Hy. Hy. I don't flipping know.
I think it's Hui.
Hui. Okay, there we go.
Hui.
Thank you.
That's my... Okay, listen, I'm so stressed out about like pronouncing the names. I believe it's Hui, but I might be totally wrong. We're trying,
It's not
guys.
Huey.
I promise we're trying. It's not Huey. When you said Huey last week, I was like, bro, that's just engagement. That's comment engagement. That's a professional content creator baiting engagement.
Yeah, if only. I wish that was the case. This Vex Cheerless as well, the 5-cost Vex with a power that makes friendly spells in combat, if it's in combat, cost 1 energy, 1 power less, and enemy spells cost 1 energy, 1 power more. We saw it quite a lot in the Cold Shot meta, right? Alan had it in their Ezreal deck, and Vex, I think, performed really well this weekend. Both, of course, the Vex Apathetic, but Vex Cheerless, I think, was a bit of a surprise hit in some of the top players' deck lists.
I remember early on in the meta for Spirit Force, people were saying that Vex Cheerless was pure trash. And then Alan's like, I disagree. And then here you are, for the Unleashed launch, and you do have it kind of going here. We do have a sideboard in this particular deck. 1 Baron in the sideboard there. I actually pulled a Baron, and one of my friends at my locals was like, I need that so bad, please. And so I allowed them to take it off my hands. Unchecked power, of course, Singularity, a Moonfall in the sideboard there. Turn to Dust, which is actually a fantastic card for blue. I had 3 sideboarded in my Lillia deck. If you want some gear hate, Turn to Dust is absolutely remarkable. And then Rebuke, of course. Anything that stands out to you in the sideboard in particular?
Angler Beast.
I'm not sure why.
What are we going for with Angler Beast? I mean, the sideboard also just 8 one-offs is very interesting. It's a very unique strategy. But yeah, Angler Beast, when you play me, return all units with 2 might or less to their owner's hands. Can we just scroll up? Because there must be like something you're wanting to bounce back of your own. Titan, not really. It's very interesting. I'm a bit surprised by the Angler Beast, I've got to say.
Yeah, I don't have an answer for that either. We'll have to maybe... I haven't watched all the games yet. I watched the finals. I missed some games in between, so I'll have to see if there was a future match with the Diana, because we're recording this so early, and they were recording it at like a god-awful time for us, for probably even worse for you. So as a result, we have to kind of play catch-up a little bit, so we'll have to see if that question was answered on the official streams. But yeah, Diana, what are your thoughts on Diana as a whole?
Yeah, Diana's definitely good. I think Ezreal is not too far behind it. Probably the thing that makes the difference, obviously, when you're picking a legend, you know, in the same colors, champion unit, legend ability, signature spell, I think you've got a better champion here. You've got a better signature spell. And arguably, you might even have a better legend ability for Diana versus Ezreal. Ezreal's definitely doing things a little bit differently, right? Like, you've got an abundance of draw. So, like, if you can build, like, a slower control deck, I think Ezreal's got a real chance. Time is an issue, though, in Riftbound, right? And I think that Ezreal, if you had unlimited time, Alex, you could build some extremely strong, very slow Ezreal decks. But I think with the time constraints, I think Diana, you just have like a bit of a quicker game plan, I think makes a lot more sense overall.
Yeah, let's not give Ezreal players more time. That's probably a bad idea. I think that we're probably, as it is, we're probably giving a little too much time. But yeah, Diana doing very well. And by the way, if you like drawing, we haven't talked about it yet, but LeBlanc, it's like the Uno meme, like draw 34. Like LeBlanc players love to draw cards, and we'll talk about LeBlanc when we get there. Vex coming in 4th place. Vex Gloomist, and I gotta tell you, I know nothing about Vex, but like I really need to know what kind of legend this is in League of Legends, because I don't really like, what powers does Vex possibly have, and how does like the Vex apathetic? How is like it flavored into like its League of Legends abilities? Like I almost need to play League just so I can like be like, that's why Vex does that. That's why Vex... Like, I almost want to play League and stuff just to learn more about these characters, because from what I hear, the cards are actually very flavorful to what they are in League of Legends. Like, there is a definite connection between them. I don't know. Vex really stood out to me as like, how is this a legend? Like, what is this here? Anyways, what are your thoughts on Vex? I know that we've been talking lots here. You do have Teemo Scout in this particular list. Lots of interesting stuff happening here. Would like your take on Vex.
Well, this is a Vex deck using Bandle Tree, the hidden, you can hide 2 cards at this battlefield. Teemo is not, the Teemo deck we're about to look at doesn't have Bandle Tree, which is super fascinating. Like, this is a hidden Vex deck. So, you know, I said that I think Vex is the most overrated deck, which obviously didn't age particularly well. That was something I said before the results were in. But you've got to ask the question, if you're playing Vex, why not just play Irelia, right? You have to think of a very different style of deck. It's a whole deck. You use Sona. This deck has the Ember Monk, which gets that +2 from hidden. And this is a hidden hold deck, which is super fascinating. Like, basically, Vex as a deck is just looking to hold. How are you actually winning the game, though, right, Alex? It's going to be kind of slow. I'm scoring a point, you score a point. I score a point, you score a point. The deck doesn't play like the green Ahri, for example, which can give you more points for holding. But instead, it's looking to hold, and then use like Evelyn Entrancing, which is a 2-cost, 2 might hidden card with backline. And when you play me from face down on your turn, you may move an enemy unit at a different location to my battlefield. So sort of working in a similar way to Charm. You've got Emperor's Divide as well. Move any number of friendly units at a battlefield to their base. I would imagine this is sort of like the key card to try and win the game. You have a big hold, and then you get to 7 points, or maybe you surprise your opponent with Emperor's Divide, move everything back from your big hold battlefield to the base, and then just try and conquer to close out the game. It's a super interesting deck. Shadow, the signature unit, is not in this one, although it could be in the sideboard. We did see like a really nice play on stream with a different Vex deck, use like the Shadow and Ride the Wind as a really cool play. But yeah, I'm really impressed that the fact that this deck managed to make it so far. I still stand by what I said. I feel like Irelia is just a better way to play this color combination. But I mean, clearly this deck is extremely strong. Getting all the way to the top 5 is unbelievably impressive.
Unrelated to this deck, when we were talking about the Lillia one I was cooking prior, I was actually thinking about using 3 of Emperor's Divide simply because I didn't have Smoke and Mirrors and I could reposition the sprites, right? Because obviously with the Lillia champ, she's leaving it behind, right? Not going, she's not bringing it with them. And so repositioning the sprites I think was particularly valuable. And obviously even if I reposition Lillia itself, that could be helpful as she generates the sprites. However, I decided because I don't have Smoke and Mirrors, I literally just ran one of the champ unit and just said, whatever, I'll deal with it another time. So that's another great addition to that deck, which I'm, again, still trying to cook. It'll be better next week, I promise. But long story short, Joe, I think one of the key things when you're playing Calm is the sheer amount of like god tier tech. You got, not only do you have the Discipline and Defy, which obviously we love, but now you get to splash in some of the beauties like Switcheroo, Starcross, which is down here in purple. So you kind of get the best of both worlds here. So yeah, really like this deck a lot. Treasure Hunter, this is one that I feel like is kind of underappreciated. This was one of the best 2 drops in the last set. I'm glad that it's still making its way into decks here and back off a fantastic hidden card and even beautifully played from hand as well, given that it draws a card. Joe, what I really want your take on here is the 6th place top 8 Teemo. My man, I know that you are just so excited inside for this gamer who took it all the way to the top 8, my man. Top 8. You got to tell me, what are your thoughts on this Teemo list? And are you interested in piloting a deck like this?
Oh, most certainly. I mean, we've got to start with the battlefields, Alex, because it's not very often you see Grove of the Godwillow and Arena's Greatest in the same deck, right? These are like traditionally in set 1, like you either pick one of these or the other, right? You pick one as your designated go first. But we saw on stream on day 1, Grove of the Godwillow be the designated go second battlefield, which is outrageous. But the reason is that you go Sprite Fountain or maybe Sneaky Deckhand, ideally Sprite Fountain, which is when you play this, play a ready 3 Might Sprite unit token with Temporary to your base. The Sprite Fountain itself has Temporary and a Death Knell ability to repeat the play effect. Essentially, you play it, you get a Sprite, it's going to be banished the next turn, but you get another Sprite. So you play the Sprite from Sprite Fountain, you hide your Teemo Strategist, which is the chosen champion. When I am defending, because it's been errated, it basically just reads, when I'm defending, you reveal the top 5 cards of your main deck and deal 1 to an enemy unit here for each card with hidden. There's like, I mean, we can quickly count the amount of hidden cards, right? You have a 39 card deck, not including your chosen champ. This has got 5, 8, 11. We won't include Nocturne in there to begin with. 13, 16, 19. It's like 22 hiddens. I might have miscounted slightly. Plus 3 Nocturnes. So you've got like 25 cards in the main deck here, which your Teemo Strategist can hit. And like 13 of the cards won't be a hit, right? So like 66% of your deck is like a hit for Teemo Strategist, which is actually unbelievable. And this is like a super aggressive deck. You're looking to hold. Yeah, such a cool build. And I'm really happy to see Bone Skewer in the deck as well. Alex, it's one of the cards which really caught my eye heading into set 3. It is a hidden card, or you can spend 2 energy and a power on it. Choose a battlefield, an opponent reveals their hand. You may choose a unit from it. They play that unit to that battlefield, ignoring any and all costs. When they do, stun it. So it's like kind of like a discard card, right? It's like a targeted discard for a unit. Can be particularly good against a Ruin Runner in this deck, because Ruin Runner and Baron Nashor actually on your opponent's side can be very difficult to deal with. It's definitely one of the concerns I would have if I was playing Teemo.
Would love your thoughts on Gust versus Windsinger, which are obviously, they're 2 peas in a pod. Windsinger being the 2/1 that reads, hidden. When you play me, you may return another unit at a battlefield with 3 might or less to its owner's hand. There's a 3 of here, acting as disruption. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, Windsinger obviously being a hidden card makes more sense in Teemo, arguably. It's like easier to hide, right? Usually it's going to cost you a power to play this, but in Teemo you've got the flexibility of using either an energy or a power. It also is just an extra hidden card which your Teemo Strategist likes, right? So Gust is still a great card. I think 99.9% of decks Gust is going to be better than Windsinger, because you can like react to it from hand, and Windsinger you can only play at reaction speed if it's hidden, and therefore you can't target the other battlefield. But in this deck it definitely makes an awful lot of sense.
And obviously you have all these hidden cards. Want to play some Guerrilla Warfare. Finally, would like your take on Baron Nashor in this deck as a one-of.
Yeah, I mean, as a one-of, it's a super interesting option. You've got a lot of cheap units here. So Baron Nashor giving all your other units +2 is super relevant. And it's just like a spicy way to win the game, right? Important to note, it's only a one of. I think a lot of people might have been tempted to throw the second copy in, but I think it's just a one of. It's an extremely interesting, unorthodox way to win a game.
Yeah, absolutely remarkable list. Congratulations to the Teemo player for putting on that incredible front. And we finally get to Leblanc, which was one of the favorites to win the tournament. But yeah, that top 8 was absolutely brutal. Literally 7 chaos, which is incredibly difficult for the tempo-oriented, LeBlanc here. Your thoughts, and by tempo-oriented, I mean I'm referring to the reflections being made and how they can be utilized. LeBlanc, obviously, I think is one of the most fascinating legends that they've created. I think that obviously it has a very, very high skill ceiling, very high complexity. What are your general thoughts on this deck, and did you expect it to perform better? Because the conversion rates were solid, but it did not end up taking the crown, but it also had a horrible path to go through with all those Chaos legends.
Yeah, I got to say the player here, Dzeden from Challenger TCG, Daniel, I believe his name is, best player I've ever played against. I played against him in Bologna. I've told the story a few times on the pod. They were playing Jinx with like cooled shots, and I got carried by pickpockets. Like I almost left the table apologizing to him because they played so well, but I just kind of cheesed him with pickpockets. Like genuinely the most impressive player I've ever shared the table with. And watching him on the stream day one, I was so impressed by the play. The baited hook, he had an interview about this deck and just said they tested lots of versions, and the baited hook kind of just proved to be the best way to play it. And baited hook is a card that I've always believed in, but the fact that it's able to perform in such a gear hate heavy meta is very, very impressive. Also worth noting, Alex, that everywhere at once LeBlanc on the sideboard as a champion, they said that they used this specifically for the Whispering Hillock game. When they're going first, they just play this on turn 2 and they look to utilize this and abuse it. It's such a strong champion. Your temporary effects at my battlefield don't trigger, so you try and make a reflection token with this card and it just snowballs so hard. 3 Ashe on the sideboard, Ashe Focus, which was that pre-release promo. Very, very good at discarding Aurora. Of course, if they hold, they'll get it back, but just don't let them hold, mate. And it's a brilliant card.
Just don't let them hold, mate. True words were never spoken in the game of Riftbound. I mean, I think for me, one of the cards that really stands out here is Karthus, coming from Origins. Being able to double the death knells is absolutely ridiculous in this deck. Ruined Rex, heartbreaking card. Like if you thought Falling Star was rough, Ruined Rex with Karthus sitting in base. Oh my God. Like it's so hard to deal with because it punishes you. Even if like you're like, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to Singularity that Rex or whatever. Like you're still cooked, like you're still eating damage. Like it is absolutely remarkable what this deck is capable to do at all segments of the game state. It's incredibly high skill, incredibly powerful. The one card that really stands out to me that like I would like your take on is Galeo. Is that how you say that?
Yeah, it is definitely an interesting one. It has that power cost. I mean, when you're playing like these baited hook decks, you've got sacrifice in there as well as a 3-of, right? So you can sacrifice this down the line. Yeah, it's a card I've seen quite a bit of, and it's not a card I've had the chance to play with just yet. Like I am wondering like what the best use case of this card is. But obviously if you get to conquer with this, you get the reflection of it, and you've got 12 might to hold the battlefield. I would imagine that's probably the main line. We saw like Daniel utilizing like the reflection triggers really to just make sure they hold like against Irelia and stuff like that. So I'm sure there's a very specific use case for it, and I think just to get a foothold in the early game and get some raw stats is going to be important, particularly when going second.
Yeah, and I mean, holding Starspring, I think, is an important element for the LeBlanc players as well, so maybe that does make a bit of sense. But yeah, I expect LeBlanc to do well. I wouldn't be surprised if at some point LeBlanc does take down a regional where the lineup through top 8 is perhaps a little less arduous. But yeah, LeBlanc's just getting started. I think this is going to be a card and a legend and an archetype we're going to be seeing for years to come because it is fascinating, it's unique, and I think that they really cooked with this. Sett was perhaps a surprising entrant in the top 10. Finishing 9th, we do have Sett the Boss. Joe, I know a lot of your favorite cards in here, including First Mate and others, are here. Really like the look of this deck. As I said prior, all of these decks will be linked down below. 3 of the irresistible Fae Folk, who, I gotta be honest with you, we did not see that much Fae Folk this season. Like when I was watching the official stream, I was going through the deck list and stuff. I'm like, I was expecting more Fae Folk. But everyone playing Orange is playing Aurora, so you don't really need Fae Folk there. You're not going to Aurora out of Fae Folk. That's going to kind of feel a little bad. What are your thoughts on Sett here? It's good to see Sett doing well. He was one of the ones that I think I had the most hope for in the original Origins. He had some really good results early, and then he kind of just fell off. So good to see a good result here.
Yeah, Colin Kaiser is like the Kaiser player, right? Like, the Sett player. Colin Kaiser being their name. They topped recently with this as well. I think in Atlanta it was. And to finish 9th is like so brutal, right? The tiebreakers at that stage is probably what made the difference. It is absolutely heartbreaking. But yeah, I like the Fae Folk edition. I think that one of the weaknesses probably of this deck previously was the 2 drops as options. And Fae Folk is kind of like a charm on a stick, right? You can conquer early, but then later on you can use it for some control options as well. But yeah, still sticking strong with like the arena bar for buffs. There's Repulse in there as well, which is a new orange counter card. It's 1 energy, 1 power at reaction speed. Choose a friendly unit at a battlefield, counter an enemy spell or ability that chooses it and no other friendly unit. And I do believe that there's more copies of that on the sideboard.
Yeah, of course. And Pit Rookie, I mean, we've talked about before, quietly solid card here, especially when with Sett, who likes to work with buffs. Yeah, overall, solid list. Vi Peacekeeper being used here. I think we saw a Vi Peacekeeper in the Leblanc sideboard, actually. It was 2 of in the sideboard there. I believe there was a situation where they actually baited hooked that, which was kind of interesting. So yeah, Sett making its way into the top 10. And you're right, it comes down to tiebreakers. I did see, I think, a couple tweets. People be like, yeah, I missed out on top 8 because of tiebreaker. It's heartbreaking. You go like, I don't know, you have like an insane run. What is this, like 11-1? Like, what is
11-2, I think.
11-2, something like that range. We don't have the official numbers here, but like that is an incredible run to get to this far, and then to lose it on a tiebreaker is heartbreaking. Rengar, which is one of my favorite. I actually want to build a Rengar deck. I think that Vex is going to take a dump on it, but that's okay. I would still like to build some Rengar. I have 2 of my 3 Trophy Hunters, 2 of my 3 Thrill of the Hunts. Still making my way to collect everything I need for this deck, but this is a pretty interesting list. You do have the Sabotages, the Dazzling Aurora, which is not what I expected. When I was thinking Rengar, I wasn't thinking a Dazzling Aurora version of Rengar, but if you're playing Orange, why not play Elder Dragon? So this is the moment where I wanted to bring it up. I kind of want to talk about it for Poppy too, but like this is the one where I'm like reading it, I'm like, really? Like, really? We're playing Aurora in Rengar? Like, it seems like, obviously you can do it. Obviously you can do it. But what I'm thinking is that like there is no way that this was the design intention of Riot. There is no way the game designer sat down, created the ambush mechanic, made this Rengar champ, who by the way I think is better than we had originally given it credit for. And then you're like, oh, okay, ambush, Rengar +1 for every thing you play. But you know what, let's just put Aurora in it and clap. Like it's crazy to me that like Aurora is placed in a deck like this, where clearly I think the Legend does not want to play Aurora, but apparently it does. You know what I mean? So this is the one that really stood out to me, like, all right, maybe Aurora is becoming a bit of a problem.
I honestly really like the build. So I played quite a lot of the Dragon stuff in Volibear, and the Rengar build with this, I think, is just even better. Like, if we just ignore the Aurora for a minute, right?
Yeah.
Like, you get this Dragon package of like the Herald of Scales. Your Dragon's energy is reduced by 2. Your Gentle Gem Dragon, which is an 8/8. When you play me or another dragon ready up to 2 runes, you basically can create this loop where every dragon you play, you almost like get energy back, right? And with Thrill of the Hunt, which is the signature spell, you banish a friendly unit. Its owner then plays it to any battlefield, ignoring its cost. Like with the Gentle Gem Dragon, it's really absurd. And then the Rengar Legend ability is every time you play a unit, you can give one of your units +1 might. So your Herald of Scales is usually a 3 might card, but if you can play 2 units, you can make it a 5 might card, and that is mighty, which is important for Kadrin the Infernal. Kadrin, I don't know. When you play me, draw 1 for each of your mighty units. So the Rengar has like really awesome synergy with this deck, right? But then with this deck, you're playing dragons. The Elder Dragon is kind of expensive to get to. But why not just throw an Aurora in? Like, you don't have to play the Aurora early, but Aurora is an engine. It needs to be answered. Maybe you high roll and hit a dragon. Maybe you low roll and hit like the Herald of Scales. But it's still like, it's an engine that needs an answer, right? Like, I feel like this is when Riot designed Aurora, more of what they were expecting Aurora decks to look like, which is like still like a normal curve. Usually the Aurora decks we see just go so all in on Aurora that you're just guaranteed to hit a big bomb. This deck isn't that. It's really, Aurora is just in there because it's just too good not to play, right? And you get to play the dragons as well, like the big Elder Dragons, which would otherwise probably be a bit too expensive. So I got to say, I absolutely love the build, Alex. 3 Sky Splitters, which is this 8 cost, 1 power spell, but it's reduced in cost by the might of the biggest unit you control. So if you've got an 8 might unit, it costs just 1 power. So I love this build. I think it's absolutely awesome. It's probably what Aurora deck should be looking like. And I think that you could also have some success without Aurora in this deck as well. It's definitely a deck I want to play more of myself.
And to push back on that ever so slightly, right? I agree with everything you're saying. I think we talked about this dragon build, I think was it 2 weeks ago? I don't know. It's really cool. I love it. But the problem with I'm trying to kind of focus on with Aurora, and perhaps I didn't articulate it well, was that the fact that it is too good to not include, that's the problem. Like, this deck shouldn't need Aurora, but the fact that Aurora can just be thrown into it because it's orange and it makes sense, I think is potentially problematic. Like, you're right. It makes sense here, absolutely. And it plays well. And this deck is probably, if you're going to talk about the fair Aurora, it's not relying on Aurora, but it's still running a 3 of. So that's kind of what I'm saying. If it's too good to not include, maybe it is maybe a little problematic because, like, I guess we'll talk about it here too, but like, what do you think Poppy is? Right? Like, it's kind of unfortunate, but like, Poppy is a really cool art. And to be honest, again, cool build. Got Vanguard Armories here. But then again, it's a 3 Aurora where you're trying to get to Aurora. You got Ruination, stuff like that, which is obviously not in there. That's a different tech piece. But like, massive high end, all in on getting onto that Aurora there. So yeah, I mean, again, really cool builds, but again, you have this 3 of Aurora.
Yeah, and this is a much more all-in on Aurora kind of game plan, right? This is not trying to be anything different. You've got 2 Harness Dragons, which is when you play me kill a unit, 3 Rift Heralds, which is when it dies, you can play a unit from your hand for free, although you do have to still pay the power cost. And then everything else is just spells and gear. So there's 2 Vanguard Armory in there. You've got Flurry of Blades, which is obviously this like 1 damage with the Elder Dragon. It is really cool to see Ruination. Like, there's no doubt about that. But no sign of the signature spell, Alex, which is probably a pretty big surprise, right? Like, when you look at Poppy, you would think one of the main reasons, if not the main reason to play it, is the signature spell. It's possible it's in the sideboard, if not likely. Yeah, it is. But yeah, I think that Aurora is, it's not my favorite card, let's be honest. I'm quite biased. I think it should go. I think Poppy would probably struggle without Aurora, to be fair, but I think like a deck like Rengar, these dragons could actually still be extremely good without it.
And for the record, like, I don't like the idea of banning cards that people enjoy playing. This is a game, first and foremost. If people like playing Aurora and they enjoy that playstyle, then absolutely, you do your thing. Enjoy the game. I think one of the challenges with Aurora, though, is it's so uninteractive from the opposing side as well. Whereas, like, it's almost like did they draw the card or not? And I feel like that's not in the spirit of what Riftbound is. Riftbound, for me, at its peak is, you know, this is Riftbound for me, all right? They have a 4 might unit at a battlefield. I send a sprite in. I discipline it. And then we just trick. That's Riftbound, right? And Aurora doesn't really do that. Aurora just like, well, I'm doing all this stuff. I'm ramping. I'm drawing. I'm doing all this stuff. Oh, look. And then now I'm just revealing till I get an Elder Dragon. Everything's dead. I win.
Yeah.
Right? It just has this very binary feel to it, which I feel like Riftbound is, it just doesn't vibe with what Riftbound generally tries to do. And again, like, I'm not trying to seek its banning. We're talking about decks here, and all we keep talking about is Aurora because apparently I can't let it go. But I'm just saying that, like, that's kind of my take, I suppose. And maybe I need to play. I don't really play Aurora. Maybe I need to play it to appreciate it.
I played some Aurora, Alex, and it just made me think it needs to be banned even more, to be honest. It was just so unfair. My opponents were just not very happy with me, but I'm definitely, I think like we're both on the side that we think Aurora should go. I think like a lot of people say, well, Aurora didn't win the tournament, it only came second. Well, yeah, it came second in a meta that is so teched for Aurora, right? You literally couldn't have decks more teched for Aurora if you tried. People have got Ash, people have got gear removal, sabotage, and yet
salvage.
Aurora was still able to come second in the whole thing, right? So,
yeah, for sure. So, all right, why don't we close it off with Master Yi? Not new Master Yi because he's cooked, but we have a deck, an orange deck. Not playing Aurora. Guys, it happened. We did it. We found a non-Aurora orange deck here. And it's Master Yi from the Proving Grounds. 3 Scuttle Crabs. Let's go. 3 Rengar Trophy Hunters. And then you got the Vile Maw that you talked about before. A one of in the deck. Alpha Strike finally making to a list as a one of here. 2 Punch First. There's a lot happening here. Back off as a one of. One thing that always surprises me, by the way, when I construct my decks, I'm often doing like 3 of, and then a couple 2. I very, very rarely do one ofs. The only example I do with one ofs is like a Time Warp. You're not gonna run 3 Time Warps. That's psychotic, right? So one of is usually enough there. But like a lot of one ofs here, a lot of 2 ofs. What are your general thoughts on this Master Yi deck that did pretty well?
yeah, I think like the more cards come out, the bigger the card pool becomes, the easier it is to justify playing like 1 and 2 ofs, right? And I think that Riftbound being 39 card deck, also with sideboard, it's very compelling to have like different splits. Because what you can also do is you can change the splits with a sideboard, right? Like you can go down to 1 punch first after a sideboard, or you turn your 1 off into a 2 off, right? One thing that's like really interesting about Master Yi that's happened this set is the new Master Yi Tempered. It's a 4/4 chosen champion. It has Hunt 2, and at level 6 you get Deflect ganking. You're probably not getting to level 6, Alex. You're just playing this as a vanilla 4/4, frankly. And what that means is that you don't have to play any other 4 costs in the deck. This is a deck which last format was playing like Navori Scout, which is a 4/4 with Deflect. Totally cut from the deck. You just have guaranteed curve, and that's going to help you to just include more of these one-off combat tricks, right? By removing the need to play 4 costs as curve, which you would probably, I don't know, need like 6 of them, 5 of them. You just free up so much space, and it really highlights how strong 4-cost champions are, particularly when you look at a champion unit like Vex, which is just broken in its own right. Just like a 4/4, almost no effect champion is actually extremely playable in Riftbound.
Now, Joe, that's going to take us to the end of our conversation about Sydney. Now, you did showcase that Jinx deck that you had brewed alongside one of your students. Do you still have spots open for coaching as we go into the Vancouver event?
Yes, mate, I definitely do. Like, especially if people are chasing best ofs. I've got like different, we could just do an hour, we could do 5 hours, however much you want to practice. If you just want to help optimize the deck, just shoot me a message on Metafy, or you can shoot me like an email or something as well. And yeah, definitely keen to be doing more and more Riftbound coaching. It's a lot of fun.
We're both pretty addicted to Riftbound.
Yeah.
I have not played more Riftbound now. Like, I'm playing so much that it's absolutely obscene. Like, so much Riftbound, and I'm enjoying every minute of it. I find that like when I'm playing, hours go by. And I didn't even notice. I didn't eat. I didn't drink. Nothing. I'm just playing Riftbound, just on the grind, playing the game. But yeah, Joe, we're going to call it here. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody. We really appreciate each and every single one of you. Subscribe if you're not subscribed already. Hit that like button if you haven't, because it is tremendously helpful for that whole YouTube algorithm thing. And we'll see you on the next one.